Okay.
Hi, my name is Kayla Dawson, and I'm a student at Whitman Hanson Regional High School. As a part of Whitman's 150th anniversary celebration, we are speaking with longtime Whitman residents. Today, we have Mr. Chick. Where did your family live when you were born?
Well, when I was born, we lived at 42 Dyer Avenue, I'm sorry. It's one of the old streets in Whitman. It's off of South Avenue. You might know where that is, maybe you don't. Most of the homes there were houses that were built before World War II, and not an awful lot has changed in that neighborhood. But I was only 2 years old when we left there, so I don't remember an awful lot about that neighborhood.
Yeah. Is that neighborhood the same today as it was when you were a child?
Well, the neighborhood that I moved to, 33 Dewey Avenue, that has changed. Some new homes, a lot less children in the neighborhood than when I grew up. One of the families down the street had 12 children, another one had 6, another one had 5. Ironically, I was an only child, so it was kind of a culture shock. But my best friend and I spent a lot of time on that street. There was woods up behind my grandmother's house. We went up there and played cowboys and Indians and all the things kids do. So the neighborhood, other than the new houses, has changed mostly because there are a lot less kids there.
What generation are you as a Whitman resident?
Well, I think that when my wife and I moved into their house on Dewey Avenue, I think sometime in the late 70s with our son and daughter, our son made the 5th generation to live there on my mother's side of the family. My mother's maiden name was Sampson, and I think most of our relatives prior to living on Dewey Avenue were residents of Plymouth. If you go down to Plymouth, look at any cemetery, there are Sampson gravestones everywhere. The house is well over 200 years old that I grew up in, with 10 rooms, a full cellar, a large attic. But since we sold the house many years ago now, the new residents have done extensive work both inside and out, so some of those numbers about the rooms and things may be a little different.
Remembering your school days, what comes to mind as an important event for the children of Whitman during that time?
Well, this is hard to believe, but when I was in grade school in the 1950s, and the Brockton Fair was in full swing every September, Whitman actually closed the elementary schools in Whitman on Wednesdays, so we were able to go to the fair. That was quite a treat. The Eastern Mass Bus Company ran buses from Whitman to Brockton, and from Brockton Center back and forth to the fair all day long. Yep, we had bus services to Brockton and to Boston.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What school did you attend?
Well, grades 1 through 4, I attended the Coppell School on Whitman Avenue, and it's still there today being in use. Here's something else you'll find hard to believe. School started at 9 a.m., and we walked from home to school. Then at noon, we'd walk home for lunch. Then we'd walk back to school, which started at 12:45, and at 3 o'clock, we'd walk home again. And for most of us, that was a pretty good hike, the better part of a mile. Keep in mind, we were 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 years old, traipsing back and forth in the middle of the day. But then I was on to what was junior high school, and that building is also still in use. It's on South Avenue, and it's condos now. Maybe you've seen the big brick building down from the post office. We went there for grades 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then again it was walk to school, walk home, walk to school, walk home. But we got used to it. Then came high school. In fact, my class went to 2 different high schools. My first 3 years were at the high school, which stood where the police station is now, if you know where that is. And then my senior year was at the high school that used to stand out in front of this one on Franklin Street. And my class, the class of 1961, was the first class to graduate from that high school. And ironically, my wife was the first class to do all 4 years in the high school, so it's kind of a coincidence.
Yeah. What did you do in your free time? What modern items do you remember being introduced during your life?
Well, my free time, of course, changed as I grew older. Early on, it was spent mostly playing outside with friends, tag and hide and seek and all those kids' games. I also had a stamp collection. As a matter of fact, I still have one that my uncle got me started on. At age 9, I got really involved with playing baseball, Little League, when I was 9 through age 12, Pony League 13 and 14, and American Legion Baseball 15, 16, and 17. I didn't write this down, but it just came to me. After I was 16, American Legion, that was the cutoff. You couldn't play when you were 17. So I joined the service, and I came home on leave that summer, and they had upped the age to 17, and my coach had my uniform hanging in a closet. So I got to play baseball while I was home on leave. So that was kind of fun. The Little League field used to be up where the Armory is now behind the fire station. And then the Pony League was in the Lower Park, and Legion Baseball was played on the field on Essex Street. The modern items that I could come up with would include color television, which they were probably this big, transistor radios the size of a pack of playing cards, so we all had to have one, and portable record players. So the only three I could come up with.
What Whitman historical event, person, or personal experience is your favorite since living in Whitman?
Well, I wrote down here Winterfest was probably the favorite of most of the residents of Whitman, but I also remember back 25 years ago, there was a celebration of Whitman of the 125th year, so that was a great time too. One of my favorite people at Whitman when I was a teenager, this might sound like kind of a funny story, but he was a gentleman who owned the Gibson Cab Company. I got to be great friends with him. I was not old enough to drive, but I used to sit in the office some and take phone calls and tell him where we had to go and all that stuff. And he taught me how to play cribbage. I don't know if you know how to play cribbage or not.
I don't, but I've heard of it.
Game. He even took me to the racetrack a few times just for something to do. And then he introduced me to pepper and onion pizzas, because up to that time, all I liked was cheese pizzas. He said, you got to try pepper and onion pizza. It's now a favorite. Great. I put down he was a great guy. I think of him often. I didn't write his name down, but his name was Jack Cousins. There are probably 5 people at Whitman that remember Jack, but I remember him. My first favorite personal experience was being scouted by the Kansas City Athletics Baseball Club. Although I didn't pursue a baseball future, it was pretty cool that they thought I was good enough a pitcher to at least take a look at me, you know. So I chose enlisting in the Air Force instead. 4 great years, 3 years overseas, a year and a half on Okinawa, which is in the Pacific Ocean, and Crete, which is just off the coast of Greece. So I had a great 4 years.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
What building or business do you miss the most from Whitman, and why?
Well, I miss the old Whitman Theater, which I'm sure you don't even know where it was, but are you familiar with Whitman at all?
Yeah, I live there.
Oh, you live here? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to the Whitman Center, like you're heading towards Brockton, and on the right-hand side, there's a dentist's office, and it's sat right there.
My mom goes
that was
there.
the Whitman Theater.
Really?
Yeah. It was there long before I was born and closed, I don't know, in the 1970s, I think. I saw my first Elvis Presley movie there. It was called Love Me Tender. That was a big thrill to see that big face of Elvis Presley, you know. My grandfather and I saw a lot of movies there when I was younger. Mr. Patriquin, who you know, the owner, always allowed us to sit in the balcony. When I first started going in the early 1950s, a ticket for kids was 12 cents. And when it went to a quarter, I was devastated. Where am I going to get a quarter? 12 cents ain't too bad. A quarter, that's tough. It was open 7 days a week, 2 movies, a newsreel, a cartoon, and coming attractions. One set of films would run from Sunday to Wednesday, and a new set from Thursday to Saturday. And always a special kids show on Saturday mornings, all cartoons and a cowboy movie. 2 more people you never heard of, Roy Rogers and Hopalong Cassidy.
I've heard of Roy Rogers.
Oh, all right, good for you. There were also a couple other places in town that I kind of missed. There were 2 bowling alleys. One was down on South Avenue, across from the boulevard. The building is gone now. It was called Carlisle Bowler's Room. That was Candlepins. Uptown, you may not remember this, there was a duck pin house up there. And they also had pool tables, and they had pinball machines. But that's something you don't see anymore around town. It doesn't give the kids a place to go anymore. But anyway, those are the places I miss.
Who was the most impressive Whitman resident you knew, and why?
Well, the one guy I came up with was a former selectman. His name was Clinton Bradshaw. You must know him. I believe it was 1951 or 1952 that he started Little League Baseball in Whitman. In fact, if you go over to the Little League baseball field and look up on the very top of the backstop, which is behind the catcher, that is in the upper park, and it has a sign with his name on it that the field is named after him, Clinton Bradshaw.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In your opinion, what has changed the most in Whitman, good or bad?
Well, I put down no need to cause controversy trying to come up with some bad changes. Good changes: a spanking new police station, a brand new DPW complex, a beautiful high school, a new middle school on the horizon, fantastic ambulance and EMT service. Now, when I was a kid, I'm talking the 1950s, if you were sick and you needed to go to the hospital, they would pull up with a cruiser, which in the days was a station wagon, and they'd pull out a stretcher, put you on the stretcher. I was going to say throw you in the back, but they'd put you in the back of the cruiser, and off you went to the hospital. Just you in the back, the policeman in the front. Nobody checking your blood pressure, nobody doing anything. Just you laying there on your way to the hospital. I assume everybody lived, I'm not sure. But that's something for the newer things that I like.
If you could have any wish, what would you bring to Whitman now?
Okay, my wife rolled her eyes when I wrote this, but I'm going to read it anyway. It would be easy to wish for a Domino's pizza.
Yes,
Or
I
a Taco
agree.
Bell, or a Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Domino's.
But my wish would be to see every church in Whitman full to the rafters every Sunday morning. In my lifetime, at least 2 churches have closed in Whitman because of attendance. And I'm sure if you go to church, you probably see that. And it's not just in Whitman, it's everywhere, which is a shame. But anyway, I would wish that residents would be calling for special town meetings to raise money to build bigger churches. Every TV station in Boston would be coming to Whitman to see this spectacular event. But I'm sorry to say, getting a new Domino's pizza or a new Taco Bell is probably a more realistic occurrance. That's pretty much what I came up with. Now, I don't know if I killed a half an hour or not, but...
Is there anything we left out you'd like to talk about?
So I said, all right, I'll tell you a couple of jokes. The blonde jokes. Don't take offense. There was this gentleman that used to put blonde jokes on the computer all the time, how dumb blondes this, dumb blonde that. So he finally got contacted by this woman, of course a blonde, and she was offended by this. And he said, well, where do you live? So she actually lived near this guy. So he said, I'm going to rent an auditorium, and you bring as many blondes to that auditorium as you can, and we're going to see if I'm right or not. So sure enough, comes the day, and the place is packed with blondes. And this lady comes up to talk to him, and he says, okay, here we go. He says, what's 4,172 times 38? She goes, I don't know. And all the blondes are like, give her another chance, give her another chance. So he goes, okay, what's 100 divided by 10? She says, geez, I don't know that either. Give her another chance, give her another chance. So finally he says, well, what's 2 plus 2? She goes, 4? And they all holler, give her another chance. And I'll give you one more. It's kind of a blonde joke, I guess. A group of blondes and a group of brunettes go to England. And they rent one of those double-decker buses. I'm sure you've seen them. And they're driving through the city, and the brunettes are downstairs having the time of their lives. They're laughing, they're singing, they're dancing, they're having a grand time. But up on the top of the bus is not a sound. So one of the brunettes walks upstairs, and there's all the blondes sitting there like this. He says, what's the matter? We're having a grand time downstairs. He says, yeah, but you guys have got a bus driver. I used to bowl a lot on Candlepin Bowling, and the place is gone now. It opened in 1960. It used to be down on South Avenue. And it was owned by a gentleman named Jim Studley. 10 lanes, and it opened the year before I joined the service, so I didn't get a chance to bowl there too much. But when I got out, some of my friends were there bowling, so I joined up, and as time went on, I even worked there for a while. I got better at it, and I got better and better. And I finally got to the point where I was so good that I was trying to get on TV, and lo and behold, I got on TV several times. I won some, I lost some, but I had a grand time. And there's a fellow from Whitman named Craig Holbrook. I'm sure you know Craig. he used to come in when I was at the top of my game, and he would bowl against me, and he'd say, Mr. Chick, if we're going to bowl 5 strings, if you spot me 25 pins, I'll bowl you for $1. So we'd bowl for $1. And more often than not, I'd beat him because I was that much better than him. But he kept getting progressively better and better and better. It finally got to the point when he came in, I'd say, listen, Craig, if you want to bowl for $1, we're going to bowl head to head. I'm not spotting you any pins anymore. Craig Horberg is now in the Candlepin Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And I went to his induction with my wife and sat with his mother, and he actually mentioned my name at the induction. I thought that was great. He said how much I had helped him as a kid. So that was a great time. Yeah.
It must have meant a lot.
I'm sorry?
That must have meant a lot.
Oh, it meant a lot to me. It sure did. It sure did. You know, if you could have seen him as a kid, he used to have an awful temper. If he didn't get a strike every box, stand back. But as you get used to knowing you can't get a strike every box, once he realized that was tougher than that, he just turned into the best bowler I ever saw, without question. I mean, you may have heard of Tommy Ulster and Peter Flynn, all these names that I remember, and Craig was as good as better than all of them. But it never went to his head. Great kid, great guy, got a wife, couple of kids, got a great job. It never. Some of those guys became what they used to call alley rats. They'd hang around the bowling alleys day and night, looking for somebody to bowl for money. But they never got to Craig. He kept a nice even keel. You know, I'm proud to have him as a friend. So that's all I can think of about bowling. The Air Force, 4 years in the Air Force, basic training in Texas, tech school in Biloxi, Mississippi, where racial tension in 1962 was pretty much the same as it was in 1952, you know? And but we learned to deal with it. And I finished tech school. I come home on leave, went to Okinawa for a year and a half, came home for another month, went to Crete for another year and a half, had a chance to get another promotion if I re-enlisted. I said, 4 years of my life is enough. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. So I came home, and now I've been married for almost 51 years. We have a couple of grown kids, 3 grandchildren, and a great-granddaughter on the way next month, our first one. So that's pretty exciting. You don't remember. You remember the 5 and Dime? Yeah, Santa Claus used to come there every Christmas and sit inside, and we'd go in there, and they'd open up the cellar, and the place was just packed with toys in the wintertime. So you get out there and try to point out everything you wanted, you know. Of course, you never got them all, but you got some of them. Well, I'll just tell that one story. The house was an old house, and strange things happened there. When I was a kid, that's a big house, 10 or 12 rooms, an attic, a cellar, and I knew that house top to bottom. Mm-hmm. But I used to dream once in a while there was another room in that house. I never knew where the heck it was. My wife and I got married. After a couple of years, we lived in the house for a short time because there was no mortgage on it. It was all paid for. And we were talking about that in bed one night, and she says, you know, since we've lived here, I've dreamt that there's another room in this house. And she says, I don't know where it is either. Well, we sold the house, so the guy found another room.
Wow.
He was tucked in behind a little closet. He was downstairs. He would measure the ceiling, and then he would measure the floor, and he kept losing a few feet. Where the heck did those feet go? So he knocked out this little closet, and there's another room in there, all painted white, nothing in it. But the only thing my wife and I thought, perhaps it was part of the Underground Railroad. That's the only solution we could come up with. What else could there be? Why else we should close off a room?
Yeah.
I haven't got much else to talk about. I pretty much covered everything I could think of. I know there used to be a lot of Christmas lights in Whitman Center when I was a kid. They used to have little Christmas trees up and down the sidewalk and lights everywhere, but that's kind of gone by the boards. There were 2 or 3 grocery stores right in Whitman Center that would deliver your groceries. I can't think of one of them was Edwards Market. I can't remember the other one of them. I think was Meatland. There were 3 family-owned drugstores. One down East End by the railroad tracks, and Duval's, which is still there.
Still there.
And then Hovey's, which is up 4 or 5 doors. So there were 3, and they would take turns. If it was a holiday or a Sunday, they would take turns staying open, so that there was always a drugstore open on the holidays.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. The only store left in Whitman from when I was a kid is Duval's Pharmacy. It's the only. Menard's hung in there for a long time.
Yeah.
But they're gone now, so it's just Duval's, and they've been there since just after the World War II. Wow. So that's almost 80 years ago. So you don't remember World War II, do you?
No.
Anything you want to ask me?
I don't think so.
No? I think I had a lot of fun. I said, what am I going to say to these people? I made sure I wrote it all down so I wouldn't forget, you know?
That's very smart.
You did a nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chick, for being here, and thank you for watching.
Perfect.